You're talking about the kids, because there are kids of gay families
Absolutely.
in that classroom, and they have a right, I believe, in a democracy, to have their family represented.
Oh, no, I just want to be clear. You should teach the book. The question is, do the children of the religious parents who want out, are they allowed to take the kid out?
Are they allowed to take the kid out if black people are the book? You know, I don't think they should be, frankly. I mean, if they're going to go to a public school, they're exposed to the public. I mean, and the public includes everybody in this country. So, and it's supported by tax dollars that everybody pays. And I have to fess up here. I've been in a 35-year relationship with my partner, and we have 3 children. We had foster children before we got licensed in California. First lesbian couple in our county, actually, to be licensed foster parents. And our kids went to the public schools, and all the public schools, you talk about your family. And our kids talked about our family, and that was important to them to be able to do that. And if half their class could have opted out because the parents didn't want to hear about my kid's family, as a parent, I would have been outraged.
Can I?
We'll get back to this.
I'll be very quick. No. I think it's a very eloquent statement of your beliefs, and I have to say that's the world I want to live in. That's the school I want to send my kids to, and it's just a question of what steps next and when, right? And personally, I'd rather see more and more states embrace the principle and let the one kid, or if it is every kid, then it's a different situation. If every kid's opting out and the one kid with gay parents is sitting in the room, or half, that's a different scene. But it's a question of whether you want change incrementally or whether you want to wait for it all at once, right? Because I think in 50 years, once you embrace the principle, in 50 years, no kids are leaving that room.
But the kids need to be able to talk about their
well, yeah, that's undebatable, is that you have to represent all families, I would say, in public school.
I would observe that I think the homeschooling movement is something of a reaction from parents who feel that perhaps that push is a little bit too fast, a little bit too radical. Did you want to comment on this?
I was right, I've got it as well. It just seems to me that sometimes these issues really do seem to come out first in the schools. And by and large, kids are way ahead of their parents. I can't help thinking that in many cases, if you take this make-believe scenario in which we've got parents who would be protesting against showing a whole series of Will and Grace shows one night after the other. The only way we might know if their kids were present is if the teacher stepped out in the hall and broke them apart from their person they're kissing on in order to bring them into the classroom to see the show.
This sort of relates to my prior comment, and I just a brief few words on what I call the myth of, what I would call the myth of community harm. And this is a common argument that if we do this, then it'll change the character of our community and make it hard for us to raise our kids. And it's no secret that Mormonism teaches a pretty conservative social and moral code. And what I want to say is, where have you been for the last 50 years? I mean, you cannot send your kids out your front door and expect that they will not be exposed, that they will be exposed only to things that you agree with. And if that's your view, then I think Barry is right, that you should homeschool your children and never let them leave. Because once they leave, the world is full of people who are different than you. And there is, again, this presumption that everybody outside my door is mostly like me, and it's just some weirdos and odd people that we have to protect ourselves from. But most people are like me. And I just don't think that's true. And certainly, you know, the atmosphere of the community, I mean, that's not a harm that should be, or in fact is, recognized by the courts as a harm for constitutional purposes.
What are your kids going to do after you die?
Pardon me?
What are your kids going to do after you die? You homeschool them.
I was just going to say, I mean, unfortunately then, it has to work the other way, right? Like, you're going to have to send your kid to school with people who are going to make fun of them for having two moms, and I mean, that's how it cuts, right? Like, every time you let your kid out of the house, they're going to be encountering viewpoints that you think will be harmful to them and their character. And that goes all different ways. And I guess, like, I'm wondering, I mean, you can't use the law to make somebody like you, right? I mean, so, like, how far can that actually go? And I get what Professor Rosky is saying, it's just like, it takes a long time to get to that point. The more you force people, the less they're going to be open to it. But I think that if you let the parents opt out, and your kids know that that's why their peers aren't in school that day, that sucks. But I'm guessing, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. There are a lot of things that you see happen to kids. So, you know, so like, what does not letting people opt out really accomplish for the kids also?
I mean, just to be clear, the reason that I would want to let people opt out is because I want Prince and Prince to be taught. Because the situation we face in most states now is we can either not teach it, or we can teach it and let people opt out. I mean, the world in which we teach it and nobody opts out is just not a world that is on anybody's plate, except I guess it's happening in Massachusetts. Here's the consequence of that happening in Massachusetts. When there's a Proposition 8 campaign in California, what does the commercial say? It's got the parents from Massachusetts on it, and it scares people a lot in California, and Proposition 8 passes. So this is the problem. People get so worked up about this issue. And just one thing. So working for Equality Utah, I do work on messaging and pay attention to what actually works with people. And I have a sad news to report from the field. One of the themes of our discussions is that, you know, people. This is a pluralistic society. People are different from each other. You have your religion, I have mine. That message is very poorly. People don't like to hear that. They're very comfortable with the idea that, no, I've got my beliefs and you should have them too. And the government would have them and they'd make everyone have them. What actually messages well is, no, you know, gay couples want monogamy and commitment too, just like you. That is, people are just like you. People are fundamentally the same. And the good news is that in spite of our many differences, there are many things that we have in common, golden rule hopefully being one of them.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah,
Stand up, please, and speak real loud.
Yeah. And I mean, coming from like the religious parents' point of view, they probably don't need to go so far as to have their kids homeschooled, but bringing those discussions home and talking about sexuality in the home, because that's what their concern is that sexuality is like a moral issue, certain aspects of it. So just bringing that home and talking about it at home and not having to totally take their kids out of schools.
You're suggesting that as a middle ground?
Yeah, and so it's not just either leave them in the classroom or homeschool them, but try to bring that discussion home as well.
Okay, sound advice. I know there are several comments. There's one more scenario that brings some balance, I think, to this first one. And so I'd like to just go into that and try to save a little bit of time towards the end to discuss anything that may be on anybody's mind. The Utah State Legislature proposes legislation that would mandate the Utah Board of Regents to adopt a requirement for all social work master's degrees. That would be the U of U and the Utah State University programs, which would require them to include the conversion therapy theory of Richard A. Cohen.
Is this a hypothetical or is this true?
I just made it up.
Okay, yeah, this is hypothetical because yeah.
One of the scary things about doing hypotheticals is that you may give people ideas.
Yeah. I'm serious.
It's really scary.
Don't go there.
Out of the bag.
As long as we say it's a hypothetical, I just want you to know.